All right, it's time for California Conversation. If you're new to this channel, my name is Holt Hanley. I'm a broadcast meteorologist for KSBW on the Central Coast, and I'm a wildfire researcher for San Jose State. So the format of this video is going to be a little bit different than my usual videos. I typically produce a 10-minute update and forecast on the largest wildfire going on across California, and then a quick 2-minute concise summary of that wildfire. But I usually spend about an hour researching the wildfire, and I figured I might as well just do that research live so that we can all kind of figure out what's going on in the state of California together when it comes to things like wildfire, weather, climate, all kinds of different things. So this will just kind of be informal chat, almost kind of like a hangout. Feel free to post any questions or comments you might have in the live chat. I'm pretty bad at keeping up with the live chat, but I'll try my best to answer any comments that you put forward. So the first thing that we can do to try to figure out what's going on in California, let's just look at the satellite imagery. This is usually the fastest way to kind of see what kind of smoke we're dealing with for the day, what kind of cloud cover, if there's any thunderstorms. And the first thing that I notice is we still have a lot of that moisture hanging around from what was Hurricane K. I was covering this over the last few days. It brought some actual flooding towards Southern California and the Sierra yesterday. It actually did bring a little moisture to the Mosquito fire yesterday as well, and that significantly calmed down our activity overnight. It was actually, there was so much moisture in the air that they couldn't even do some of their firing operations. And I think the Mosquito fire is going to be the top story that we are talking about throughout the course of this video, because just right off of the bat, I can see a little smoke towards the west of Lake Tahoe. One thing we can do, let's go natural color fire, and then let's zoom in on local. Oh, wow. Actually, as I click out there, you can see, I think that's the remnants of Hurricane K right there. You can still kind of see that counterclockwise rotation type shape that you get with a hurricane, but what's now a tropical storm. So let's click in here, and natural color fire, we'll be able to see, yeah, it's right there. You can see that glowing at the very end. And it's important to see that it was just at the very end here, because that tells us that it wasn't very active overnight. Satellites weren't picking up all that much heat, although there's also some cloud cover there, so perhaps the satellites just couldn't see through those clouds. But then we definitely start to see that orange color flare up as of right now. So the next thing we should probably do is just see what it looks like on the ground. I'm going to restart this because I loaded this about an hour ago. Took me about an hour to just get this new format together. Hopefully you all like this new format. I think it could be good, just figuring out all the stuff that's going on in California together. So as of an hour ago, or this is a time lapse of the last hour, there's a lot of smoke over the area. We're starting to see some clearing. Looks like that blue sky is starting to pop out. And then a couple of those puffs right there tell you that the fire's picking up a little bit, but it's almost so hazy that we can't really see what's going on. So just to confirm, it's about 12:30 right now. So this should be about the time where we start seeing more activity, but as of right now, there's almost so much smoke cover that it's reducing the activity on this fire. This is something that we saw 2 days ago. The forecast was looking extremely hot. It was looking extremely dry. And then the day before, so much smoke was produced that not enough sunlight could even get into the fire, that we ended up getting lower temperatures, higher relative humidity, and the fire basically did nothing. Well, I shouldn't say did nothing, but at least wasn't active as it should have been. And what I'm hoping right off of the bat, just looking at this, is that that smoke sticks around today, which is bad for air quality, but it is good for reducing that fire behavior. So I'm going to check out the live chat real quick here. Yes, I do live in Santa Cruz, and there is not a chance I am leaving California. My whole emphasis of getting my master's in meteorology with a focus in wildfire was because I love California. I plan on staying here for the rest of my life. And I know wildfire is a big problem, and I'd want to be kind of part of the solution to this problem. I grew up in the North Bay. I remember some of the ash from those North Bay fires coming down on my car, and then I lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains for a while where I was directly between the CZU and the SCU lightning complex wildfires. So no, I will not be leaving California anytime soon. I'm going down with the ship. That's a bleak way of putting it. No, we're going to figure out this wildfire problem and work together to find some solutions. So let's just come back here. Best thing to do, actually, before we look at where the fire is active, it could be useful just to check out how many acres we're at right now. I'll reload that one. Looks like we did jump up in acres. Let's check out my Twitter because I remember posting what the acres were yesterday. So we'll be able to see just roughly how much those acres increased since they did the last flight. So right there, that was 16 hours ago. I posted that it was at 37,326 acres. And then if we look at it right now, 41,443 acres. So not actually that big of an increase when it comes to that wildfire activity. If we actually want to see the increase, I downloaded the most recent data on this wildfire. I could zoom in a little bit here. And then we could actually take this day by day. Let's just go back to the very beginning. So this fire started on September 7th. So the first flight data that we have is actually from September 8th. That's what it looks like. Again, just kind of looking at some of the areas around here. There's Michigan Bluff. On the original day, Forest Hill was way to the west over here. But then as we click to September 9th, this is where the fire really started to take off. Remember, that was the day. Actually, we could look at it on my Twitter account because I remember posting one of the time-lapse videos from that day. It wasn't that one. It was this one right here. So I'll make that big. Hopefully you can still hear me while this video is playing, but this is from the day that the fire was absolutely taking off. This was in the middle of that California heat wave where we had some triple-digit temperatures, low relative humidity, and I would say it was the most active wildfire day that we have seen this year. So just coming back here, let's look at that increase again, just to put it into perspective. Again, the southern edge of that, we didn't have data, so we don't exactly know how far south it went that day, but clearly massive increase in the size of the fire that day. That was extreme. Then if we go to September 10th, pretty active day right there as well. So this is the data that we had as of yesterday. Most of that growth once again towards the east and the south. A lot of that south growth is from the canyon winds that we'll get with this. And then a lot of that east growth is we've just had prevailing southwesterly winds that pick up in the afternoon and just try to push this fire towards the northeast. Now let's zoom out a little bit and let's see what the most recent increase looks like. So definitely, first thing that comes to notice or comes to mind for me is that growth on the north side. We actually have to zoom out a little bit in order to be able to see it. So going off on, that northern growth. We also have some more eastern growth right there. And then now look at the south. Looks like we have that finger popping out right there, but that might actually just be a firing operation right there. I know they did have some firing operations on the side around Forest Hill. We zoom in right here. You can get an idea of how steep some of this topography is in this area. This is something that they talk about in basically every single wildfire update on the forest or on the Mosquito fire, is how difficult the terrain is in this area. So right here, when we turn off the recent data, you notice an increase right about there, but that's actually a firing operation. We have what's called the Middle Fork American River right there, and what they were doing was trying to tie that fire into the river to basically just clear out some of those fuels so that when And they did this overnight when there's very favorable conditions, high relative humidity, so that when the fire does pick back up again, there's not as much fuel to fan those flames. Now, one area that I have been concerned about is this southern edge down here, or southwesterly edge. So let's see if we had any growth there. It looks pretty similar to what we had yesterday. It actually looks like we had barely any growth in that area at all. So that's pretty good news. The reason that's good news is because yesterday we were seeing a lot of activity right there, and when we turn on structures, you can see how many structures were close to where that fire was active, but doesn't look like we had any recent growth there. That doesn't mean we're in the clear, but that certainly is moving in the right direction, I would say. And it's also good news that when we look at this map, where you see those red dots is where the fire has been most active recently. I'd imagine some of those red dots near Forest Hill are actually from the firing operation. And then it's good to see that we don't have as many of those red dots right around all of these structures that we were concerned about yesterday. Now, where we see the most red dots, or hot spots, whatever you want to call them, is on that northeastern side of the fire. And I would imagine that is just the fire doing its own thing. I believe we did have some firing operations up here, but we've had those southwesterly winds in the afternoon. That's been keeping this northeastern side of the fire active. Now, one other thing, you see some activity on that southeastern side of the fire. This is actually where fire history starts to come into play. We have the 2020 Point Fire, 2021 Rubicon, 2014 King. They kind of all blend together. Not exactly sure which one's which here. But where the Mosquito fire is starting to bump into that burn scar, the hope is that enough of the fuels were reduced by these fires that happened relatively recently that it'll slow down any growth on the southern edge. So let's click down in here and see if we did get any growth on that southern edge recently. Again, it's hard to tell if it's the fire it's doing its own thing or if it was a firing operation. Just based on the topography right here. Yeah, if anybody knows if this was a firing operation, please say something in the live chat. I'm sort of keeping an eye on it. But just given the topography, it would make sense that if we had those winds in the afternoon, could drop a little burning ember down here, and then fires like to go uphill. So perhaps it was able to just take up that canyon right there. But again, that's not something we can really confirm or deny as of right now. So now, I think we covered this map enough. Now let's check out watch duty. So yesterday I did see that some evacuation warnings and orders were expanded for the Mosquito fire. So if you want to find that information, I put a link in the description where you can go to this watch duty site. I think I'm kind of a map sort of person, so my favorite way to look at it is go to InciWeb. I also put that link in the description. And there's a Placer County evacuation map, El Dorado County evacuation map, and you can find those. That does look like the evacuation warnings or mandatory evacuations did look like they get expanded right there. So definitely if you are a local, it'd be good to kind of check out these links right here. Here's the El Dorado County one. We'll close that up so you can see what it looks like. And that red color right there represents where it is a mandatory evacuation. That means basically leave immediately. That yellow color is where it is a evacuation warning, where it's good idea to just start to get things ready. And I mean, if you have time, could be a good idea to maybe do some fire clearing around your house. That's certainly what I was doing when I was under an evacuation warning in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So also, if you want to see those links, you can go to my Twitter, and I posted both of those links on my Twitter yesterday. So now let's go to InciWeb. I always like looking at fuels involved. So any beneficial effects of relative humidity increase will be slight and brief. vegetation will remain prime for extreme fire behavior. So this is something that we were talking about a lot yesterday with Hurricane K, or what's now referred to, I believe, as post-tropical cyclone K. With all this moisture coming in, it definitely did help us overnight to reduce the wildfire activity. It might have actually hurt us when it comes to the not being able to do firing operations because there was actually so much moisture. But we could take what we can get when it comes to moisture over a fire. I'd say overall, it seems like that would be a good thing. Now, what that INCIWEB statement right there tells us, though, is that this entire last week in California was so warm. We had that heat wave that basically went on for 7 or 8 days where we had those triple-digit, in some cases record-breaking temperatures. And you can just imagine how much that dried out a lot of those fuels. So if you don't know, when your relative humidity increases, like the moisture in the air, that's going to affect the finer fuels more quickly. So things like pine needles, leaves, very small twigs, that's going to respond to that increase in moisture. And then as it increases in moisture, fire is going to spread less rapidly through those finer fuels. Now, if you have something like a big branch, that's going to take a lot longer to respond to any moisture activity. So I think that's where INCIWEB saying vegetation remains prime for extreme fire behavior. California is in that, and I believe about 93% of the states in extreme drought. Actually, you know what? Let's just check that out. I haven't looked at the drought map much recently, so it could actually be interesting to see how much of the state is in what. So in that orange color, that's severe drought. Looks like 97.5% of the state's in severe drought. The red color is extreme drought, and about 40% of the state is in that. So that's kind of a decent indication of how dry the fuels are. And it looks like where we have the Mosquito fire, that's where the state is in severe drought. Now, when it comes to significant events, so fire behavior Saturday was moderate. That was for a couple reasons. We had that smoke hanging out over the fire throughout much of the morning. And then we also had some of that moisture coming up from Hurricane K. But they say when the air cleared, the fire exhibited isolated torching and slope runs, especially on the southwest side near Georgetown. Elsewhere around the perimeter, fire behavior was reduced under the smoke inversion. So that's ties into what I was just saying when we were looking at the time lapse of the last hour here, is there's so much smoke that's going to reduce the amount of sunlight that comes in, which means we end up being cooler and with a higher moisture than otherwise, and that can help reduce fire activity. Now, when it comes to the weather concerns, this is kind of the big question mark for the day today. They say no big weather changes are forecast for Sunday. Smoke and clouds will be expected to shade the fire, what we were just talking about, resulting in somewhat reduced fire behavior. High temperatures will be generally in the 80s and minimum humidity 25 to 30%. Winds will be somewhat light, 5 to 10 miles per hour. So that's all some pretty good news right there. I'd be interested to see if that forecast is coming true. So we can check out the weather observations right here. Looks like, let's actually go in here to see, I'm interested to see how high our relative humidity got last night. Because they said relative humidity got so high that they actually weren't able to continue their firing operations. Looks like around Forest Hill we got up to a 56% relative humidity, so that's a lot of moisture in the air. Right now we're at 81 degrees at 12:30 p.m. and our relative humidity has been decreasing over the last 15 minutes and it's now to 21%. Let's see if there's some wind speeds in here. Gusts 9 miles per hour, so that's not all that windy, which is some good news. The big question mark when it comes to our winds throughout the day today is if we end up getting some thunderstorms, because where those thunderstorms would be at the higher elevations, but then we could get some outflow winds that could possibly lead to some erratic spread on the fire. And just looking at this map, this is about 5 p.m. Notice that little isolated pocket of moisture around South Lake Tahoe? That's most likely where the model is predicting some thunderstorm activity. And we could look at that in a second. First, I just want to check out the humidity here, though. It's usually driest around like 4 p.m., so let's check that out. Yeah, looks like they're not expecting that much of a change in humidity throughout the day today, staying around 20 to 30% depending on where you are with this fire. Wind gusts, I'd imagine, actually looks a little bit lighter than yesterday. Some gusts up to 20 to 25 miles per hour from that same southwesterly direction. The reason the direction is important is because that basically tells you, to a certain extent, what direction the fire is going to move. Now I had to put a little disclaimer on that because in this area there's so many different canyons that your winds are a lot more complex than that. But overall, our flow has been from the southwest, and that's why that northeasterly side of the fire has been as active as it has. And it looks like we'll have similar winds today, but overall not that windy. So that's where there is some good news on this fire. And winds have actually been somewhat cooperative this entire time. So let's actually look at that rain accumulation. Looks like they're showing some light drizzle in this area. Don't exactly like this website when it comes to rain, so we'll look at something else to actually figure out if we'll get some rainfall over this fire. I wouldn't exactly count on it though. Alright, so let's just go back here. So it looks like they're expecting some thunderstorm activity. That's what that color represents right there, to pick up later this afternoon. But thunderstorms are usually one of the things models have a really hard time figuring out, so wouldn't exactly count on that. What else we can try to do is look at, let's go to Northern California here, and then let's just go to, we'll try precip first. So 2 p.m. Sunday, looks like we have some of that thunderstorm activity popping up south of Lake Tahoe. Remember, the Mosquito fire is going to be about 30 miles to the west of Lake Tahoe. Actually, let's see if it's still 30 miles. Let's get our ruler here. Distance, that's probably the closest spot right there to Lake Tahoe. About 28.5 miles. So yeah, we could round up to 30 on that. Now if we come here, it looks like around 5 p.m. you notice some of that thunderstorm activity starts to push farther north. That's just the continuation of some of that moisture moving up from what was Hurricane K. And with that, there's the chance that we get some thunderstorm activity over this fire. And I see somebody just put in the live chat, this is Cratamus, and heard they said that possible outflow winds will come up from thunderstorm. Usually good, but operators have said that the fire will want to run with any clear air, mostly towards the steep, rugged areas. That's a perfect summary right there. That's kind of the two sides of the coins when it comes to thunderstorms. It can be bad if you get really gusty winds, and then it can also be bad if the thunderstorms create new lightning fires. Thunderstorms can be good, though, if it brings in some moisture, and then So thunderstorms can be good if it brings up some moisture and then even maybe some rainfall. So just to look at rainfall, check out total precipitation. I'd be surprised if there's anything significant coming over the fire. Actually, the model is looking better than it was yesterday. And so that is by 8 a.m. Monday. Shows some very, very light rainfall over our fire. That would be less than 1/10 of an inch. So again, not enough to really put out the fire by any standards, but it could help us a little bit. But then it actually looks like there's more expected to fall by 8 p.m. on Monday. So I think we actually jumped the gun on clicking away from this precip type and rate. Looks like they're actually expecting more activity on Monday. So this is 11 p.m. tonight. Kind of calms down overnight, then 11 a.m. on Monday. Yeah, 2 p.m. on Monday, actually showing more of this thunderstorm activity than what's expected throughout the day today. So that's some new information that I did not know, that we're actually expecting more of it tomorrow than we are today. And I see my two great moderators are on this right now, Robert and Lucy. You guys always do a great job of keeping the chat civil. And I see Lucy said, bring up super chat, I'll contribute. That is actually a new update to my channel this last year because I signed a contract with KSBW, and technically these wildfire forecast videos are competition with what I do for our news, because I sometimes do wildfire videos for KSBW as well. It's in my contract that I can no longer receive any money from YouTube or super chats or anything like that. So this is just on the house right here. I mostly do these because I'm researching this stuff anyway. And I know, actually the main reason I do this is during the CZU and the SCU lightning complex wildfires, when I was living in the Santa Cruz Mountains, I had a really hard time of figuring out what was going on. And it was very important information. I didn't know if I had to evacuate. I didn't know if the fire was heading my way. And it was extremely stressful not really knowing what was going on. So I just started researching all of this different kinds of stuff. And then I realized that since I'm researching this, and since I'm getting my master's in meteorology with an emphasis on wildfire, so I could be a good person to analyze this stuff, and I'm training to become a broadcast meteorologist, so this would be great practice for communication, I figured I might as well just put these into videos so it's not just me that I'm helping, but anybody who might be interested in these wildfires as well. So I just saw Lucy just posted Patreon as well, but yeah, and it's also in my contract. Basically, I can't receive any money whatsoever for any type of wildfire forecast videos. But again, this is something I plan on doing for the rest of my life. So the more I practice, the better I can get, and the better we can all understand wildfire, which I would say is my number one goal. So I think we've looked at the Mosquito fire pretty well right here. One thing I didn't show yet, there's my air quality that I'm looking for. This is something that I used to not really show in my videos, but I got some feedback from you guys where you always want to know what's going on with the air quality, because that can sometimes impact more people than the wildfire itself. And it does look like that air quality is pretty bad right now. We have that very hazardous air with that purple color directly around the Mosquito fire. It looks like it's stretching into Lake Tahoe a little bit, and then unhealthy air in a much wider region right there. And then some of the smoke even looks to be stretching as far south as the Central Coast. So one thing, let's just come back here. Yeah, it's hard to tell like what is smoke and what is the clouds from Hurricane K. The clouds are going to be more that white color moving towards the north. The smoke is almost what looks like it's at a lower elevation, just hanging out towards the ground. Still seeing a lot of smoke over the Mosquito fire. So this is where I would, it's always good news and bad news. Some people would see all that smoke over the fire and say, that's bad, it's very poor air quality, it's unhealthy for humans to breathe. But from a wildfire perspective, it's actually kind of good news, because you can imagine all that sunlight trying to get in there right now. It's having a hard time of doing that, and because of that, the fire is going to be calmer throughout the day today. So, see another comment here. I saw a random flare-up 20 to 25 miles away from Grass Valley last night. I don't know if that had been a spot fire or something else. So let's check out. Let's go to Google Earth here. And they put little red dots around the fire. Let's get oriented towards north. There we go. They put little red dots around this fire where there's isolated fires. Looks like they have a lot of those dots actually around that Forest Hill area. So we're definitely still going to keep an eye on that spot. But let's look up Grass Valley. Again, I'm not totally sure if this is going to work, but it's worth a shot. And interesting. So just off the bat, again, I don't really know too much about this, but just given the winds yesterday, most of that flow was towards the northeast. So I'll zoom out here so we can see where Grass Valley is in comparison to the Mosquito fire. Most of our winds were blowing towards the northeast, and it actually wasn't all that windy yesterday. So I would be pretty surprised if we were able to get any spot fires down here, but it could actually just be maybe like a new fire or something starting. We can check that out on CalTopo, see if we have any other hotspots popping up. Oh, it actually does look like there's maybe one of those hotspots right in there. And actually, I'm also interested to see if the Fairview Fire is still doing anything, because this is one that we talked about previously. Not seeing any of those red stars around the Fairview Fire, which means we're not really picking up any heat on that one recently. Let's go GOES detections. Yeah, no more heat on the Fairview Fire. Disclaimer there, that doesn't mean the fire is out. It just means all of that moisture that we picked up from Hurricane K seems to have really helped out on that one. And actually, that is something that I could clarify. Yesterday, I posted this tweet where I said, didn't expect to ever say this, but moisture from a hurricane really helped to reduce wildfire activity today. And I think one of the comments on this was somebody says, I'm not aware of any precip falling on the Mosquito fire yesterday. I'm actually not aware of any precip falling on the Mosquito fire yesterday either, but kind of what I was saying in this tweet was that the moisture coming up from Hurricane K and then also the increased cloud cover, the cloud cover helped to keep our temperatures lower, and then the moisture helped to increase our relative humidity. And the more moisture is in the air, the more moisture gets into those finer fuels, and the lower or the slower your wildfire is going to burn. So you don't actually need rainfall to be helped by clouds. Just the increase in moisture alone can sometimes actually do even more than if you were to get rainfall. And did see another comment here. Hey, well, unless you lived this fire, that blank low pressure storm from the south played havoc while we had a high pressure to the east. This scared, but yeah. So with that one, I think with this tweet, I wasn't saying that, Hurricane K was 100% good for Southern California. I was just saying the moisture from the hurricane helped to reduce wildfire activity throughout the day. And just looking at the Fairview Fire, before Hurricane K came in, the fire was extremely active, and you can look at all these structures that we had down here. Thousands of structures were threatened by the Fairview Fire. When it was coming in, we were pretty nervous about what was going to happen, because with tropical storm force winds coming in, they were saying it could pick up embers, toss them miles away from the fire. There's extremely dry fuels. It could start a bunch of new fires, or it could bring some moisture and rainfall and basically put the fire out. And looking at the activity on the Fairview Fire right now, kind of looks like it pretty much just put it out. So I'd say that's some good news there. We can actually look at the Fairview Fire here. So, view details. It says 28,307 acres, 45% contained. If we go back in my Twitter, I always like going back to my Twitter, because if I post about a fire, then it's almost like a little timestamp for how many acres the fire was at a certain point in time. So this is September 7th. It was around 10,000 acres. That was when it was extremely active. And right now, what were we showing? About 28,307 acres. Don't think a lot of that growth has been in the last 2 days. Most of that was in the past. It's been relatively calm as all this moisture has moved in from Hurricane K. And we're up to 45% containment. Now that ties in with something I just saw in the live chat. Sarah said, can you explain what containment means? And I'm so glad that you posted that, because that's actually one of the main things that I wanted to show in this video that I haven't shown in the past. I'm pretty sure we got some new maps for the Mosquito fire. Yes, we do, as of 3 hours ago. Alright, so Mosquito fire, again, is up to 10% containment. If we look at the map, the map looks like a lot more than 10%. Oh, that's estimated perimeter. It's a little, maybe that's just where it's estimated. I want to find a map that shows where it's contained. Let's see if this one. So basically, while this is loading, I could try to explain it, but containment basically means where they're not expecting any more growth on that part of the fire. Wow, that's loading very slowly. Fire containment definition. Let's just get the actual definition in here. And they say, let's go to the NWCG website. I believe that's National Wildfire Coordinating Group. Containment, the status of a wildfire suppression action signifying that a control line has been completed around the fire and any associated spot fires which can reasonably be expected to stop the fire spread, and the act of controlling hazardous spilled or leaking materials. So we're talking about that first definition there. It's basically where they have put in some control line and they're not expecting any more growth on that part of the fire. So zooming in here, hopefully a legend pops up with this. Legend down here. So that black line, yes, we found the map we're looking for. That black line is going to be where the fire is contained. The red line is going to be where the fire is uncontained. Now, with red line, that doesn't mean the fire is actively still growing in that area. It's just an area that they haven't completely locked up as of right now. Now, where we do see that black line, looks like it's around a lot of that part of the fire on this more kind of eastern edge of the fire that we were so worried about yesterday. Again, if you're new to the live chat, we can go back over why we were worried about that part of the fire. So zooming in here. Yesterday, this was the part of the fire I was most worried about because those orange dots are all the structures. You can see the fire basically bumped right up near those. But if we look at the containment map now, looks like we have black line in that area, which means we got some containment in there. Now, we're not seeing any official containment around Forest Hill yet, but where you see a lot of those black X's, let's go down to our legend. That is completed dozer line. So that is some great news for Forest Hill. Looks like we've got dozer lines just all over the place in that area. So that's definitely some good news right there. Let's see if we have any other containment. Looks like that southern edge right there is showing some containment as well. So I see somebody's Cretimus said, how is the mountain fire going? And actually, that's a great question because I did hear that the mountain fire was more active. So let's go. Good place to start. Let's maybe go to Cal Fire, click on mountain fire. So it looks like this is, I think this is the only fire in California to go over 100,000 acres so far this year. That is actually one thing I will say about wildfire season. Last I checked, we're still about 1 million acres less burned. Don't know if that's right grammar, but we've burned 1 million less acres this wildfire season than at this time last wildfire season. So that's pretty good news right there. Let's hope some of our kind of luck continues, but with that being said, everybody who has been affected by the wildfires this year, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. Oh, wait. We may have a problem here. Oh, I read it wrong. Okay, mountain fire, 12,635 acres. For some reason, I added in a digit there. So that one is not over 100,000 acres, which means Mosquito fire is actually our largest fire. And we haven't had any 100,000 acre fires yet. So glad that we clarified that one. So I heard this one was calm for a while, but now it's starting to kind of flare back up again. 12,635 acres. Just want to confirm I say that right again. 60% containment. So usually when containment gets above 50%, it means your wildfire is really moving in the right direction and you're not really expecting any large growth, but occasionally, and especially if things get very warm or windy or dry, fires can sometimes flare back up again. So I should put a link for Cal Fire in the description of this video. I think I forgot to do that. But damages and losses, so 0 structures damaged, 4 structures destroyed. We've got 2 injuries, and I heard they were putting some new resources on this fire with it flaring back up. So we got 9 helicopters, 85 engines, 17 dozers, over 1,200 personnel. So let's come in here and let's see if we can see some of that new activity. We're going to turn off structures so we're not too confused here. Looks like it's far northern California, and yeah, we do have that big flare up on the northeastern part of this fire. So where you see all those red dots, that's where some of the recent activity has been. And let's go GOES detections. Yeah, still showing some heat being picked up in that area, although it doesn't look like it's all that much heat. So let's actually change our gaze here. It might be hard to see through the clouds. Kind of that grayer color lower down is going to be our smoke. But then all the white color above that is going to be that moisture moving in. So, I don't know, hopefully we get some rain over the mountain fire. Let's see if we have any rain in California. This is something we haven't looked at yet. NWS radar. And let's check out California. Looks like we got some showers in Northern California right now. Hopefully some of that is falling over the mountain fire. It would be great if we had a combination of the wildfire map and the radar. I don't know if anybody's ever made that, but somebody has the link to that. I'd love to be able to include that in future videos. I've never come across something like that though. So, oh, interesting. So somebody said, looks like it's flaring up looking at the cameras on fire alert Eureka cams. So, let's go. Let's see if we can find some shots of the mountain fire. So we weren't seeing all that much activity on the Mosquito fire right now. It's blocked by a lot of that shade from the smoke. We also have some of that moisture coming in from what was Hurricane K. Now let's see if we see any smoke plumes around here. Somebody has better eyes than I do, and you see a big smoke plume where you know what camera is showing the mountain fire. Let me know in the live chat and we can figure it out together. So I'm just seeing a lot of haze. Yeah, so if anybody knows that one, let me know. But I think our best source said, alright, the reason of this flare-up was due to a spot fire out of containment lines, which surprised me. And Cratimus, you've been posting some great comments today, so I'm actually going to add you to our moderating crew. So if you ever see any kind of bad comments or anything that isn't appropriate for this chat, or especially the spam ones, you now have the ability to kind of hide those comments, and hopefully that makes the job of Robert and Lucy a little bit earlier, because in these new kind of California conversation videos, I'm most likely just going to be talking about this for a long period of time, so I don't want it to be just on them to be able to moderate comments. So back to the mountain fire. Let's see where our structures are on this one. Looks like it's a lot less structures than what we have with the Mosquito fire, but we definitely still have some, and around where some of that recent activity was. Let's see if there's any fire history. Yeah, it doesn't look like any fire history, so there's going to be some fresh fuels in this area that haven't burned in a while. Let's go to InciWeb and see if InciWeb has anything on the mountain fire. No, it looks like it's mostly on that CAL FIRE page that we were looking at right here. One thing we can do, we can check out what the weather is going to do for the mountain fire today. Take our lat long, go to windy, and let's put it in here. And let's check out how warm and dry we're going to get throughout the day today and see if it's going to be better tomorrow. So it looks like Monday is expected to, the winds are expected to pick up tomorrow. You notice those wind gusts up to 25 to 30 miles per hour tomorrow afternoon. Temperature is about the same both days, around low 80s. Let's just confirm that. Yeah, low 80s throughout the day today. Let's check out humidity. And yeah, humidity in the 20 to 30% range. That can vary depending on where you are on the fire, but yeah, decently warm and dry conditions on the mountain fire today, but not triple digits, not triple digit temperatures, not single digit humidity, so that's at least better than where we were last week. So I think it could be useful just to do an overall kind of summary of some of the stuff that we've learned so far to anybody who's just new to this live chat. Down there, this is one of the best shots of the day. You can see what was Hurricane K still spinning off of the coast of Southern California. Some of that moisture is still finding its way into California. And because of that, we have moderated our wildfire activity somewhat, although you do notice all of that smoke over the Mosquito fire, that more grayish color right there. Now what I will say is, as of right now, and it's about 1:15, we're not seeing any huge smoke plume coming off of the Mosquito fire. Now, that doesn't mean that we're kind of in the clear for the day. What can occasionally happen is where your winds pick up in the afternoon, where the sky is kind of clear, the winds are able to push the smoke out, and then the fire can just rapidly take off. As of right now, though, it looks like that smoke is just sitting over the fire. We haven't gotten that clearing, so that's significantly reducing our wildfire behavior. But I don't know, trying to forecast if your smoke inversion is going to break is something that I don't know how to do yet. So I think that's something that maybe in the future I'll interview one of my advisors at San Jose State, who are just the experts of wildfire forecasting, to see if they know any tricks for forecasting the breaking up of an inversion. That's basically a scientific way of saying when that smoke is going to clear and the fire is going to take off. But as of right now, I'd say we're looking pretty good. So, looks like we have a camera showing a possible plume. Let's see how I could access that. So I wonder if I'm able to click on a link in here. Yeah, I think so. See if this works. Again, this is the first time I've done kind of one of these conversation type videos where we're all trying to figure out what's going on our wildfire and weather situation for California together. So we're going to be trying some new stuff throughout the day today. Let's go with 3-hour time lapse. I just want, while this is loading, looks like this is on the mountain fire. Nice. So first thing I noticed was all that smoke early in the day. And then above, that's most likely some of our clouds moving in from Hurricane K. Looks a bit too upper level for that to be our smoke. And then, yeah, we start to see it picking up throughout the morning. This is a 3-hour time lapse. So great fun, Cratamus, on this camera, because I could not find anything on the mountain fire. So that is a view of what the mountain fire is looking like right now. I would say that looks to be our most active wildfire going on in California. The Mosquito fire looks relatively sleepy right now, which is some good news on that. So I think we've covered a lot of this information pretty well. If anybody has any final comments that you want to post, that you want me to check out or try to answer, I'll maybe do a couple more minutes where I'll keep an eye on the live chat to answer any questions that you might have, because then I want to put together, I think I'm still mostly going to talk about the Mosquito fire in my 10-minute update and forecast video, and then I also do a 2-minute summary video. And if you want to see those, you can subscribe to this channel, where I'll probably record those right after I end this live stream. And then for anybody who's new to the live chat or the live stream, if you don't want to go back and watch an entire hour-long video, you can just watch that 10-minute one or the 2-minute one to just get the most important information that you'll need to know about the Mosquito fire. So, not seeing any questions firing up in the chat, so I think I am just going to wrap this one up for today. Again, if you want to stay updated with wildfires throughout the rest of this season, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube, and you can also follow me on Twitter, where sometimes if I don't have time to do a whole video on YouTube, I'll just do quick updates on Twitter. For example, like when evacuation warnings or orders gets expanded or there's any rapid changes on the fire. So, hope that this video was helpful, and I also hope that you like the new format. I think I am going to stick with this, because if I'm researching these fires, we might as well research them together, because how many do we have on this? 72 brains are a lot better than one. So, hope that this was helpful, and thanks for watching and contributing.